Now I want to open the session 2. So as I said, now it's about collaboration for innovation and application in the new economy of movement. And we start with our MC of session 1, Sebastian Becker from Riddle & Code, and Katarina Preikschat from MHP, who recently published a white paper on blockchain in the automotive sector. And I welcome both of you so that we learn more about the importance of blockchain in the automotive sector for the new economy of movement. Thank you.
Okay, that works perfectly. So I'm changing hats now from emceeing to providing a bit of an analysis and what came out of this automotive sector and blockchain study we did. So why did it happen? As MoCo is trying to give us a stage to exchange our views and to create industry collaboration. As a startup, in our case, we are coming from the blockchain hardware space, meaning we're building specific crypto modules that can be connected to any blockchains. Basically, this doesn't limit us to the automotive industry. But after starting to work in that industry like 2 years ago, we of course realized that as every industry, there are some specific requirements that we need to take into account when we talk use cases, when we define business development roadmaps. And of course, as a blockchain startup, we have a different angle or a different viewpoint on not only the technological development that we think should be put in place, but also how this can work to the benefit of the industry. So we wanted to kind of write our impressions down and try to generalize it, and not to talk so much about our solution specifically, but about the philosophy behind it and the philosophy behind decentralization. And so we teamed up with MHP, a Porsche daughter company, big consulting firm in the automotive space here in Germany, based near Stuttgart, but also in the other important automotive cities here in Germany, because they have the automotive know-how. So we teamed up to basically look at it from both sides. What are the challenges in the automotive industry, and where and how could blockchain be a response? So that's basically how this project started, like mid last year. The hard copy and the digital copy was released in November, so you can download it for free. I brought a few copies, maybe you've seen them. But let's now move over to Katarina and let her explain how we currently see the automotive industry, in which position, and what are the strategic challenges.
Okay, thanks Sebastian for the introduction, and thanks MoCo for being here. So my name is Katarina. I'm portfolio developer for the topic blockchain at MHP, and our intention for this white paper was definitely to tell the world, or especially the mobility expert, that blockchain can solve specific mobility challenges. And our approach at MHP is always like having problems or challenges first before we consider any solution. So we definitely want to avoid that somebody uses blockchain just because it's blockchain or hype. So that's why we also started in our white paper with the challenges of the current mobility trend case. So cases connected, autonomous, shared and electric. And we figured out, and it doesn't matter what use case exactly, but we figured out that most of the use cases have challenges in security and the interoperability with neighboring industries. So what does it mean exactly? I brought you one specific example. Thank you. It's the communication of vehicle to infrastructure. So what does it mean? The communication of vehicles to, for example, traffic lights or traffic signs or charging stations, but also other electronic devices on the road, like the roadside units which supports autonomous vehicles in having or defining their location. And what do they exactly transfer, or what do they communicate? So, of course, we have use cases and payments that the vehicle can pay the charging station by itself, but we also have data for negotiation, for example. So the vehicles can negotiate, for example, that they can do passing maneuvers when they're driving autonomously. And we found out or listed down all the challenges which we have in communication. So I think it's not just for the vehicle to infrastructure communication, but also for machine-to-machine communication in general. And there we have the main problem or challenge, that the distrust and information security. So it means that we always have to prevent the communication from fraud. So we have to make sure that the data which is communicated is not changed, or that we have no loss in the communication. And of course, we have to make sure that we always can trace back from where the communication, or from where the data was transferred. So for this especially, we need the unique identity, and this unique identity isn't possible since today, until today. And the second, the second big problem is also the microtransactions. So I guess everybody of you knows the use case of on-road charging. For example, if you're in your vehicle on the traffic lights, if it's red, then your vehicle can get charged. But this does not happen at the moment, of course, because of the infrastructure, but also because of the microtransactions. Because currently the microtransactions are or cost more than they're actually worth. And we also have challenges in the infrastructure. That means in the internet connection, for example. I guess everybody who came from Wolfsburg by train today knows what I mean, because we have no internet connection at all. And of course, we also have legal challenges, especially since May 2018. So GDPR came, and now we always face challenges when we have personal data. And especially the first two challenges can be handled by blockchain. And here I would like to hand over to Sebastian, our technology expert.
I've never heard that in my life, that I'm a technology expert. So
You are.
I think my CTO in the audience is having a big smile on his face right now. But so let's focus on the blue triangle here. Trust must be the solution for many of these issues. But the question is, since we can't hash physical objects, how do we connect the blockchain as a very secure data repository system with the physical world? So the solution here is, since we can't hash the objects, we have to bring the blockchain to the objects, and chips are the means to this end. Unfortunately, today's or the security chips that are available right now will not necessarily be enough if we really want to secure critical infrastructure. We all know that as soon as devices are connected, they will be hacked. And these attacks will be, let's say, amateurish first, not in the sense of the hacking capabilities, but they will be more coordinated later on. And if we talk about really autonomous vehicles on the long term, then it becomes quite obvious that our lives will depend on these vehicles working properly, and that they cannot be hacked, neither on the hardware nor on the software side. So what we need is basically a piece of hardware that is super secure and that can fix the identity problem that we have. And the means from our perspective to that end, and that was a key result of the study, is that a hardware car wallet, whatever it might look like. We have a first prototype here from our projects last year where we developed a first industrial grade solution with landlord mobility. But of course this will shrink. In the future it might be embedded in a telematics unit. But only if we have a tamper-proof digital identity for the car, then we can really work with the data coming from the car. Because once we have a trusted data source, then third parties, be it the users, other vehicles, infrastructure, or external companies can take the data that is coming from the car, that has been approved and signed by a car wallet or crypto chip, and is then made available to all the parties that need to get access to that data on the blockchain. Only then we can build business models that are automated, and then smart contracts basically can execute based on these data sets. So blockchain will fulfill a lot of USPs because we can store data in a secure way. We can turn vehicles into trusted data sources. We can build very efficient backend systems. I guess Harry Behrens will talk about that in the next speech. How we can really, trigger efficiency with blockchain. We can lower transaction costs. That's something we heard also this morning. And of course, in the best interest of the public and the private companies, we can shape the future regulation. So blockchain hardware, of course, it's not hardware only. If we say hardware in the digital context, it's always hardware plus software if it's not broken. So this means that this kind of platform can really provide a fertile and hopefully sustainable ground where an industry can be built upon. So trust in connection, well, it's not a vehicle only. You have it here to the right, but the user will come with a DID format, also based on blockchain, and also corporates or public entities will also have a digital identity, and then an efficient backend will be able to map these three identity types depending on the use case. So that's how the car wallet looks like. Basically, it creates a tamper-proof digital identity, and then every car will become addressable and will be able to execute transactions. Not all of them will be token transactions, most of them will be just data transactions, but it still means the vehicle will become a trusted data source and it will sign whatever it is sending our way. So, as a result of the study, there are a few, let's say, ingredients that companies should follow or try to make them happen. A trust anchor is important. We can also apply, hardware form factors to paper documents, for example. So there are very creative ways to create technology-based future processes. Security is a key aspect, not only that we can identify vehicles, but as some industry experts told me, the kind of software that is running on vehicles in the future will be regulated. We will need to have registries not only for the vehicle itself, but also for the software types. We might have registries for critical parts of a vehicle, like batteries, etc. So all of this can be helped, and we need consortial structures because it's a decentralized industry. That means nobody will be able to drive it alone if it has been set up properly. So by default, we will need collaboration without the danger of creating, monopolies or, unerlaubte Absprachen, as it says in German. Back to you, Katarina. Efficiency.
Yeah, thank you. So the fourth point or success factor is definitely efficiency. So all of us know that we have smart contracts which allow us to digitalize processes in a much more efficient way. And we also have the GDPR compliance, so especially in Europe, each application should be GDPR compliant. I guess everybody of you know that we have huge discussions about blockchain and GDPR, and one of the people say, okay, it's no problem, others say it's a huge problem. I guess everybody would agree if we have no personal data on the blockchain, then we're definitely compliant. But we definitely have to pay attention whether we then just change the business idea behind it. So sometimes we have a trade-off between it. The last success factor is definitely the business model. So in the past we had seen a lot of different business models which were based on financial models. So that's why, because blockchain initially came from the financial, but I guess we also see different business models. At the end of our study and at the end of our talk today, we provide you the blockchain mobility landscape, which we currently see. So within our white paper, we collected a lot of use cases on which companies are currently working on, and we tried to justify blockchain within it. Sometimes blockchain was just used because of efficiency, sometimes we really solved mobility challenges, and then we clustered these use cases into these topics, and we found out that a lot of companies are currently working on so-called low-hanging fruit use cases, which are like on a standalone basis, and these use cases might not solve or do not solve any specific mobility challenge, but it increased the efficiency, and I guess these use cases are also good for learning. But we also have like high potential use cases, especially when we talk about data marketplaces and the vehicle to X, so infrastructure or what else, communication and the digital twin. And with these use cases, we definitely solve existing mobility challenges in a complex infrastructure. But we also found out or think that it doesn't matter whether it is a low-hanging fruit use case or a high-potential one. If we see these use cases in a big picture, like, for example, autonomous driving, and have a car wallet, which Sebastian already explained, then we can combine all these use cases and have a big picture where each use case definitely is valuable. And so thanks a lot for your attention. You can of course download our white paper and have a look into it. You can of course ask us some questions, but we definitely wanted to mention with our white paper that we definitely need to collaborate together in order to make the future of mobility happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Katarina. Before we open and here for questions, I have a question for the two of you. Like you mentioned, it's not a, let's say, Porsche game, or it's not a Daimler game. It's somehow a collaborative game that we have to solve, because it's a way bigger problem to tackle what you've shown in your metrics. Have you also described something like this in your white paper, or have you thought of that in the studies that you two did, or your companies did together?
Well, we're trying to provide a 360-degree overview. Of course, there's not, let's say, a use case for everything out there, at least not in the public domain, because of course some projects were also under NDA. But it's important to talk about all the facets of blockchain, because one of the problems we see, not only if we talk about blockchain technology at conferences, but also our clients, even if they are tier 1 companies, they are still struggling to explain to management why blockchain is not just a pivot database with higher security, but that it's a multi-dimensional type of beast. And sometimes it can have a security priority, sometimes it's more about efficiency, sometimes it's about tokenization, either on the financing side or on the business model side. So we just try to basically put it on every page, that all these aspects are important, but the business creativity starts when people both on the technology side and on the business modeling side will be able to play with these Lego bricks and build tomorrow's solutions. So it's not easy, it's more complex, I think, than normal IT change projects, but it will be definitely worthwhile to start working in that direction.
Okay, perfect. How is it with the audience? Are there any questions regarding blockchain and the automotive sector as presented by Sebastian and Katarina? Okay, good. Then I will not bother you with more questions and just continue. There is one of Lucas, yeah.
You mentioned there's a high-hanging fruit, the digital twins and the data marketplaces. I'm interested in that, so I just wanted to ask, how high is the fruit hanging? Are we talking about in 10 years? Are we talking about in 2 years? What's your guess?
I guess especially everything what's about the vehicle identity and also the data sharing. This fruit is hanging very high. Of course, the time will tell us or will show us how high it is, but until now, I guess we always face the issue, especially in the industry, that nobody wants to share data. Nobody wants to share its data, and with blockchain or DLT, whatever, we get the chance just to share data, but in a way that everybody is benefiting. And so I think that it's hanging very high, but Sebastian?
No, it's true if we think about passing all the legal procedures and processes, but we are still in phase, let's say 1.5, evangelization plus trying to put it on a solid ground. But still, we're still not struggling, but there's still work to do to convince people that it's not a different kind of a security chip, but that this Siamese twin between a piece of hardware down there in the vehicle and the digital twin up in the blockchain is creating also possibilities to control the network integrity or the vehicle integrity, and all of these different security layers will become very important, because hardware plus the digital twin will really be a very solid system that you cannot cheat or tamper with. And that's the ultimate goal. If we've solved that security, let's say maximization issue, working with the digital twins, we've seen it in other industries, MP3, video compression, it has all led to, fertile new grounds for these industries. So, you have to get your head around it rather early on. Digital twin itself is not a new concept, of course, it's not, a blockchain-specific phenomenon, but it has, a big impact in the blockchain context.
Perfect. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Katarina.